Thank you all for joining us today for another edition of our Citizen Science webinar series. We're very excited today as we slowly wrap up the year 2024 to be discussing the exciting citizen science initiatives being taken on throughout the agency. We've been working very hard to engage the public through citizen science in an effort to help NOAA accomplish its mission. The potential for this type of engagement has increased dramatically in years as new and low-cost technologies have greatly expanded who can and wants to participate. These technology innovations are complemented by the development of new models for co-creating projects with communities to better incorporate their needs and goals from the start. In this talk, we will be analyzing data on NOAA's projects from reports to Congress on implementation of federal prize and citizen science authority, as we discuss efforts in our agency to support and grow participatory science. Today, I'm joined by my colleague, John McLaughlin from the NOAA Department of Education. John is the Education Program Manager with NOAA's Office of Education, and he serves as our Citizen Science Coordinator and helped to establish NOAA's Citizen Science Community of Practice to facilitate communication among people within the agency interested in empowering the public to become more involved with science. He represents NOAA in government-wide efforts to help expand citizen science and in partnerships with the broader field. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to John for the first half of this presentation.
Well, thank you so much, Rebecca and Cassandra, and thanks to all of you for taking the time to join us for this webinar. As Rebecca mentioned, we'll be talking about NOAA efforts to support citizen science across the agency. And the reason we find this has power is because it leverages the power of the crowd. Collaboration is essential to study Earth system science, and I want to highlight that anyone can participate. NOAA is a supporting agency of the GLOBE program, which offers elementary GLOBE, so students down to grades K through 4 can participate in study of Earth system science. While meanwhile, on June 30th of 1999, the American Littoral Society's fish tagging program went presidential as former President George Herbert Walker Bush recaptured a tagged striped bass near Kennebunkport, Maine. The same fish had been reported by an angler off the coast of Cape May, New Jersey, some 3 months earlier. And President Bush ended up engaging that angler in a writing of letters. So it just shows the power of the crowd and the ways different people can participate. And today we're going to talk about terminology that we use in these conversations, overview activities we have going on within our agency, talk about new models for engaging communities, as Rebecca mentioned in her introduction. We'll talk about how you can get involved. Then we're going to transition to a report to Congress, the requirements for that report, NOAA projects that have been highlighted as examples of success within that report, and then looking at what the data in that report are telling us. We'll also show you a new resource portal that we've recently developed and talk about some next steps in our work. Starting with the definition of citizen science, so we can all be aware of what we are talking about here. The official definition from the Crowdsourcing and Citizen Science Act of 2017 says that it is a form of open collaboration in which individuals or organizations participate voluntarily in the scientific process. And then it includes a number of the portions of the scientific process that volunteers can be involved in. I like to highlight this because often people think of citizen scientists as collecting data. A typical image that comes to mind might be a birder in the field looking through binoculars and recording data on the bird they're seeing. That's important, but that's not all citizen scientists can do. They can be involved in all these other aspects of the scientific process, including creating and refining the project design, making discoveries, and solving problems. So far, we've used the term citizen science, but this work goes by multiple other terms, participatory science being one growing in popularity. Also, projects that involve the community in very meaningful ways are called community science. And you may also hear public participation in science or scientific research. And we're working with other federal agencies that we partner with and the field as a whole to ensure we're using the most appropriate terms And in this slide, there's a couple of resources that discuss this conundrum of rebranding and how this field needs a name change if you do want to do a deeper dive and learn more. The field as a whole has a rich history. We have a program at NOAA that dates back to 1890. In an image here, you can see one of the volunteers collecting weather data in the early years of that program. But about 15 years ago, new technologies revolutionized what can be done with these types of projects. New smartphones enabled people to go outside and take observations instantly connected to geographic coordinates and photos that can be submitted in near real time. Also, the growth of online projects can engage people from all over the world while increasingly offering the ability to support subcommunities, such as those based on location or interest, and also opening up this type of work to people who may be constrained to a given location or to being within their homes. We feel this work is important because it can have multiple outcomes. A report from the National Academy of Science, Engineering, and Medicine on learning through citizen science discusses how projects can have outcomes related to research and monitoring, hands-on learning, and increasing STEM literacy, as well as helping address societal needs. And this report argues that these are complementary. In other words, if you have a project that enhances scientific research and leads to real scientific discoveries, there's a higher chance it's going to lead to STEM learning. Conversely, if a project increases the STEM literacy of its participants, there's a higher likelihood that it will lead to scientific discoveries. Projects do need to be intentionally designed to have these type of outcomes. So there is a science to intentionally design a project for the outcomes you want. Along those lines, there's also growing research in how to design projects that are inclusive. And a big part of the puzzle is co-creation. We pulled out this report from the previously mentioned Learning Through Citizen Science report that says collaborative design with participants from underrepresented groups helps to challenge limiting assumptions and create programming where all participants can learn. Rebecca had mentioned early on in the webinar today the new model of doing this type of work where communities are engaged from the beginning. And when those communities' personal lived experiences get integrated into project design, the project is more likely to engage communities that may not otherwise be engaging these types of projects. So all of this has led to citizen science being named one of NOAA's 6 science and technology focus areas back in 2020, along with data, clouds, uncrewed systems, artificial intelligence, and omics. And as part of being a science and technology focus area, we created a NOAA citizen science strategy. It was written by a cross-agency writing team, and it covers the period of 2023 to 2027. Apologies. And it contains 45 actions that our agency can take to advance this work. And over 60% of those actions are completed or in progress. And it has goals in 5 areas: coordinating and supporting this type of work across our agency, integrating this type of work into our science, assuring data quality, strengthening partnerships, and increasing proficiency within NOAA staff to do this type of work. The support that's offered through this action plan is manyfold. Part of it is we maintain a catalog of projects on citizenscience.gov where we have over 60 NOAA-supported projects. We have a community practice within our agency with over 235 members. In September, we finalized a generic information collection request, which ensures these projects are in adherence to the Paperwork Reduction Act. And excitingly, we just had the competition close for our first ever citizen science focused funding opportunity in NOAA, which was citizen science for improved stock assessments and climate ready fisheries management through the National Marine Fisheries Service. So if you find this exciting and want to get involved, there are many pathways to do so. If you're NOAA staff, you can join our community practice. If you're not already a member but would like to be, or just want to learn more, you can email us at citizenscience@noaa.gov to join. And we share resources and best practices. On the citizenscience.gov site, you can find a toolkit for starting a project within the federal government realm, you can find the aforementioned catalog of projects. And there's a community of practice with over 400 members representing 60 agencies across the federal government. If you want to look beyond the federal government, there is the Association for Advancing Participatory Science, which is open to all. And they offer an open access journal that really is helping move the field forward. And then this last bullet is a hyperlink to the NOAA volunteers page available off NOAA.gov, where we offer volunteer opportunities in a topic by topic format. So you can find an opportunity that may be right for you to get engaged in a project. All this activity led to the Crowdsourcing and Citizen Science Act of 2017. And part of that act requires a report to Congress from the White House Office of Science Technology Policy every 2 years. And there have been 3 such reports to date. The most recent report was released this spring in April of 2024, and it covers activity in the fiscal years 2021 and 2022. And the names of these project reports are all implementation of federal prize and citizen science authority. Looking at NOAA submissions in the past 3 reports, the first report, which covered fiscal years 2017-2018, we submitted 11 projects. Then the second report, 14 projects. And this most recent report, we submitted 17 projects. Of those 17 projects we submitted to the most recent report, 4 of them were highlighted as models of successful implementation in the report text. That was the most of any agency and the most we've had highlighted in any of the previous reports. The report highlighted the National Marine Fisheries Service Cooperative Shark Tagging Program, the National Estuarine Research Reserve System's Hudson River Eel Project, urban heat island mapping campaigns conducted by the National Integrated Heat Health Information System, and Fish Story from the South Atlantic Fisheries Management Council. So I'm going to take a minute to tell you a little more about those 4 projects so you can get a flavor of this type of work. So the Cooperative Shark Tagging Project is the oldest citizen science program of NOAA Fisheries and has allowed NOAA to collect large amounts of data that we would not have access to without extraordinary research costs due to the highly migratory nature of shark species, crossing domestic and international boundaries. Data from this program have also been used to define structure, document longevity, and validate age and growth in several shark species. The report found that this project was an example of sustained cooperation between recreational anglers, the commercial fish industry, and NOAA fisheries. And it showed that volunteers have contributed to conservation, management, and scientific understanding of Atlantic sharks. It went on to say that not only does this project align with the mission and goals of NOAA, but it expands its reach and capacities in ways that would otherwise be impossible. Another project I'd like to highlight is the Hudson River Eel Project, which is an example of citizen science that engages the public and broadens participation in species conservation and management in the Hudson River. Once a year, American juvenile eels migrate from spawning grounds in the Atlantic Ocean to East Coast estuaries to grow and mature. However, there are challenges to these eels, including overharvesting, barriers to habitat, and negative perception from the public. These pose a growing threat to those eel populations. New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, Hudson River Estuary Program, and the National Estuarine Research Reserve aim to combat these threats through the Hudson River Eel Project. The project started in 2008, and estuary staff have collaborated with a community of high school students, teachers, and other volunteers to collect these migration data on eels and to train those volunteers to do so. The first goal of this project is to collect robust data on juvenile eel migrations. And a proof of that robust data is that the Atlantic States Marine Fisheries Commission, a coast-wide fisheries management agency, has officially accepted these data for its status reports and plans on eels. A second goal of the project is to engage community members in hands-on local science. Toward that end, each spring, up to 1,000 volunteers participate, sometimes springboarding to additional community science projects and even careers. Before I introduce the next project, I want to ask a question of you. I want you to picture yourself in Washington, D.C. on an afternoon of a hot summer day, a little different than the cold day we have today. And I want you to think about how much the temperature might vary in degrees Fahrenheit across the city. And you can put your guesses or your thoughts on what that temperature spread might be in the chat. All right. Now that you've thought about it for a minute, citizen scientists actually looked at this through an urban heat island campaign in August of 2018, and they found a 17-degree Fahrenheit range of temperatures across the district, with the coolest temperatures being along the Potomac River and near Rock Creek Park, where the most affluent communities in our area tend to reside, and some of the warmest areas being along Rhode Island Avenue, where transportation corridors prevail. The high visible success of these urban heat island mapping campaigns have enabled NOAA to get Inflation Reduction Act funds to expand the program and to strive for deeper community engagement via community science. The intent of the National Integrated Heat Health Information Systems Center for Collaborative Heat Monitoring is to empower communities to come up with their own questions, provide technical support, to design scientific approaches to interrogating them, and enable them to execute and learn from their own projects to advance their goals. We have found that participants in these urban heat island campaigns tend to feel a sense of ownership in the data that are collected and use these data in community meetings for land use decisions being made. The final of the 4 projects I want to overview is Fish Story. Fish Story was listed in the report as an example of a cost-effective approach. It is run by the South Atlantic Fisheries Management Council, and it's a pilot project that has archived over 1,300 historic fishing photos. It's in the Zooniverse platform, a platform for online projects, and asks volunteers to help classify photos. The team is currently working to expand Fish Story from a pilot to a full-scale project, and they've been working to grow their historic photo archive. This has been done through a variety of outreach methods, and they've been able to archive over 650 new historic photos. And the archive now has photos from the Outer Banks of North Carolina through the Florida Keys, versus the pilot project, which only included photos from the Daytona Beach, Florida area. So now that we've learned about some of the projects in the report, let's look at what the data are telling us. One of the first questions that we'll look at is, does the project have underserved audiences as a target audience? And from the 17 projects NOAA reported to the most recent report, 23.5% did, while 76.5% did not. Also, the report asked, have projects been evaluated? And it turns out 41.2% of our projects have, while 58.8% have not. We would like to grow these numbers. And this shows where our projects are at. And a lot of the projects have limited funding. So things like evaluation may not be possible with the current resources available to those projects. But finding ways to offer project managers access to resources that may help improve these statistics in future reports. And when we look at 10 projects that have been reported in all 3 reports, so from 2017 to 2022, these 10 projects have all contributed data, we find an incredible growth in participation from just over 27,000 total volunteers in fiscal year 2017 to those same 10 projects now having almost 200,000 volunteers. We also see a growth in those 6 years in the number of FTEs, from just under 5 to over 15, and over tripling of the number of FTE equivalent that are supporting these projects. And this has all been done with pretty much fixed level funding, a total for those 10 projects of around $3 million in agency investment. That you can see this plot has remained really relatively constant. And so with that said, I'm going to turn things over to Rebecca to overview a new resource portal we have in our agency.
Awesome. Thank you so much, John. So one of the things I would like to point out is that our citizen science team at NOAA is small, but we are mighty. There are about 3 of us who work closely together on a lot of these initiatives to help implement our citizen science strategy and action plan. And one of those tools that we've come together to create this year was a new internal resource portal for our community of practice. This tool, which is our virtual lab, or VLab for those of you who are familiar with it, is an internal website where our community of practice members can find information on our Paperwork Reduction Act clearance and relevant ICRs. They can find relevant news articles and publications pertaining to NOAA citizen science and trends within our community of participatory science from across the country. They can communicate back and forth on different topics within our forum and work to organize different initiatives and share ideas. So, this is a new platform that we launched at the beginning of the summer for our community of practice to gain feedback on its use, what changes they would like to see, and what else we could add to it. We're hoping to continue to grow this throughout the year to make it a really bustling resource for those community members to see them further engage and connect together online. Awesome. Now, as we proceed through the year, we'll continue to grow and use and implement the action plan as our strategic guide for new and ongoing initiatives. We have several items that we are scheduled to do throughout fiscal year 26, as well as several aspirational ones that we're eager to make progress on. We're continuing to seek out and build opportunities to grow and support co-created projects, as well as expand our understanding of what is involved in supporting this type of work. Over the next several months, we'll be starting our data call for the next report to Congress, where we will be contacting our program leads for specific points to share to demonstrate the impacts and importance of NOAA citizen science. We can also use this information as part of our ongoing initiative to track growth and document the impact citizen science can have on NOAA's mission. We are also committed to supporting educational opportunities within our citizen science program, including the new Marine Debris Monitor and Assessment Guide for Educators, which I will be dropping the link for in our chat. That is an exciting advancement that is out and about and ready for our educators to engage with their students. We're also very excited that within our department, this year we've been able to support and collaborate with Roy Arizo, who is our Teacher at Sea Alumni Association Fellow. He has been collaborating with several of our existing programs to create additional learning tools and resources for teachers and educators to engage their students in citizen science. We are also fortunate and excited to see the new projects that will be supported through our first funding opportunity with NOAA Fisheries. So it's been a very exciting year for us, and it's only going to continue to grow as we implement our citizen science action plan strategies. Now, our next steps that we're very excited for are to continue to support and grow our community of practice throughout NOAA. We're going to continue to plan and host monthly installments of our webinar series, like the one you all are tuning into today. We're hoping to continue to highlight projects, trends, and issues within citizen science and bring relevant material to our community members. So if anyone out there is interested in presenting, or if there are topics that you would like to see covered, you can always reach out to me and the rest of the citizen science team at citizenscience@noaa.gov. And we are also excited for the Association for Advancing Participatory Science Conference coming up in spring 2025 in Portland, Oregon. We're currently coordinating a meetup for our community of practice members in the forum of our VLab page. And once the schedule of presenters and poster sessions is finalized, we're going to be excited to support our community members who will be sharing at the conference and supporting them on those endeavors. All right. And with that, we're going to be getting ready to take some questions, comments from the audience. So I'm going to turn it back over to Cassandra.
All right. Thank you so much for your presentation on that. We did get a question that came in the general audience chat asking, could you repeat about where is the conference?
Absolutely. So the Association for Advancing Participatory Science, which I am practicing saying because they recently changed their name, their conference is going to be at the end of May after Memorial Day in Portland, Oregon. So they're working now on accepting proposals, finalizing selections, and then we're hoping to have the schedule come out in the next few months. And we'll be organizing on the VLab site to coordinate efforts to support our community members who are presenting either in sessions or in posters. We'll also hopefully, depending on attendance, be able to schedule a community of practice meetup. So we'll be able to get together and collaborate with some of our community of practice members in person, which will be very exciting.
Okay, we had another question come in through the general audience chat. I'm curious if other folks in the community of practice have identified useful ways to assess research or monitoring needs from which to design projects or match existing platforms.
Yeah, that's a great question. And we often get asked about gaps. Where can we apply these type of approaches where they're not currently being applied? And interestingly enough, there's a bit of a science to it and a bit of an art. It has to be an approach that people care about and want to get involved with. There are certain topics where people and communities are very interested in engaging and studying. Precipitation and weather has long been one of them. But there are a number of other topics where we see a lot of activity and a lot of interest. Birding has long been one of them, and we've mentioned marine debris. But there's some interesting ones. There's a roadkill citizen science project where people help identify what type of animals were hit when they see roadkill. And as gruesome as that may seem, the data are really useful for determining where animal-car interactions happen. And it's a popular project that's been around for a long time now. But there are other times where people try to apply a participatory or citizen science approach to a given topic that people just aren't interested in collecting that data. So really looking for a topic where data are needed and additional community input and insight is needed, as well as a topic that people are interested in and communities are interested in. So that's why really that two-way communication is key to engage potential community to see what their goals and interests are, and not for NOAA to design it on our own. Because we may have areas where we think people are interested in helping us, and volunteers may be interested in helping us study, but there are a number of projects that got launched and really did not ever receive that interest. So it's finding those topics where the public interest overlaps with the interest of our agency.
Our next question is, can all NOAA employees get access to the VLab website?
Yes, if you have a NOAA.gov email address, if you reach out to us at citizenscience@noaa.gov and let me know that you're interested in looking at the site, I'll be able to add you to the VLab site. So you'll be able to go in and view those resources. If you have an email address outside of NOAA, we do have to complete a form in order to add external members. But if you reach out and express some interest, we can definitely work to get some resources together for you.
Awesome. And then I know you just said it, but just so it's on the screen again, is this the correct email to follow up? citizenscience@noaa.gov.
100%. Any questions, thoughts you have, please send them our way through that email.
All right, thank you. And then we do have some questions that came in through the general audience chat. The first one is, could you explain more what the TAS fellow is working on for educators?
Yes. So we're very excited about our teacher at C Fellow, Roy Rezo's time supporting citizen science this year. It is one of a number of projects he's working on. But Roy is helping us create educational activities for a given set of projects right now. We sent an email out to our community practice, or to a select set that we thought would potentially be of interest, soliciting interest in working with Roy and then I think we have 4 projects that are currently selected, and he's been busy. He actually was presenting with an online project, Click Corals, at the New Orleans National Science Users Association conference this past week. And he's created educational materials for a number of projects. And then we're hoping to work with him to synthesize what he's learned from those projects to create some general guidance and templates for projects that are interested in doing more education work to be able to leverage the resources he's created. And we'll likely be doing a library webinar series, talk about that in the end of this spring. So keep an eye open for that if you're interested in learning more. And if you'd like to learn more or reach out, please contact us at citizenscience.noaa.gov. We'll be glad to connect you.
Sounds great. Our next question that came in through the general audience chat is there a map that can tell us where citizen science is taking place, like for finding nearby citizen science?
I wish I could say the answer was yes. And I could say this is something we at NOAA and the citizenscience.gov interagency platform has struggled with. The way our projects work is they have very different geographic locations. We have some projects that intentionally recruit volunteers from specific areas. We have some projects that are open to coastal areas, some projects that only occur in given areas like national marine sanctuaries. We have some projects that are open to certain states, some projects that are only in certain cities. So it becomes a very difficult process of determining the geographic footprint of each project. And it's just one we don't currently have the resources to solve. So we do list projects on citizenscience.gov catalog, but we don't have a geographic search filter. There is a catalog of projects called SciStarter, and the federal agencies filter their projects or submit their projects to SciStarter as well. And they do have more advanced search capabilities. And I'll put that name of that project in the chat here, scistarter.org. And it's funded by National Science Foundation. Julia, you already beat me to it. Thank you. And hopefully at some point in time, we will have more advanced search capabilities. Also, if you do want to reach out to us at citizenscience.noaa.gov and tell us where you are and what you're looking for, we can try to help link you to projects as well.
That being said, we do have some projects that you're able to do from any geographical location through a smartphone or web-based resources. We have our MPing app, which is really important. It's a web-based application that you can put on your phone, and it's reporting precipitation or weather phenomenon you're experiencing in the area. So our weather radars are kind of two-dimensional. They show precipitation moving through the area, but as far as what's happening on the ground, that's a unique experience for the person in that region, and you're able to share that detail by just pushing a couple buttons on your phone. So you're able to be a citizen scientist from anywhere. We also have our herring count project, which will start up at the end. I think it starts in end April, beginning of May this year. I was just on their website. But that's a really interesting one where you're able to count fish that are moving through fish passageways along some of these dam restoration sites. And it's short video clips that range anywhere from 10 seconds to 30 seconds. But you watch the video, record your observation of how many fish you saw swim by, and you're a citizen science from the safety of your couch. So there are a lot of projects like that available, and you can check those out, and you're able to participate on those from anywhere, which is really exciting to see technology connect folks.
That's really cool. What did you say was the name of the first app that you talked about, the weather one?
Yeah, it's MPing. I will put it in the chat along with a link so you can read up more about it before you just download it on your phone. But it is something that is sponsored through the National Severe Storms Laboratory.
All right. So the next question that we have in chat is, in fisheries, has citizen science helped you at all with making inroads and building trust with difficult stakeholders?
Yeah, fantastic question. And there's been a growing community within our National Marine Fisheries Service working on these type of projects. And my co-coordinator for citizen science comes from Fisheries Science and Technology Office. I don't want to speak for fisheries, but I will say that one of the projects I highlighted in the talk from the cooperative shark tagging program from fisheries was called out in the report as an example of, and this is an exact quote from the report to Congress, an example of sustained cooperation between recreational anglers, the cooperating fishing industry, and NOAA fisheries. And that program dates to 1962. So for relationships to be sustained for that long, I would hope there'd be, especially volunteer activities, I would hope there'd be a trust-based relationship there. I would hope that that's helped build trust. But I don't want to answer any further than that on behalf of fishers.
I also just dropped a link in the chat that links to an article about the river herring counting project. So it gives you a little bit of background of information, and then there's relevant links on the side, including linking directly to their website where you can participate in that study later this spring.
Is there any overlap/interaction with SciFish or Got One between projects?
Great question. I am not certain, and I'd definitely like to consult with my co-coordinator from NOAA Fisheries before answering that. Jerry, if you wouldn't mind sending that question to citizenscience@noaa.gov, I can get you a better answer.
Do your citizen science projects coordinate with maritime educational and interpretive sites, such as the Havre de Grace Maritime Museum in Maryland? And I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong.
Another fantastic question. I will say there are a lot of place-based institutions, including maritime-focused ones, that engage their participants in these types of projects, including through NOAA projects. Maritime educational and interpretive sites, I'm not 100% sure about. We do have a number of aquariums and the Coastal Ecosystem Learning Centers, or CELC network, that is engaged with us on citizen science. So we do have a number of sites doing these type of projects. I'm not specifically sure about maritime interpretive sites, though. There is a number of activity at our number of our national estuarine research reserves do and support citizen science projects, as do some of our national marine sanctuaries.
What about the National Estuarine Research Reserves?
Yeah, absolutely. We do have a lot of citizen science happening at National Estuarine Research Reserves, including some individual reserves running their own projects.
What percentage of projects relate to Atlantic fisheries?
Another fantastic question that I wouldn't have that data off the top of my head. There's the South Atlantic Fisheries Management Council is very active, and we highlighted a couple projects here in this talk that relate, but I don't know the percentage of the projects that relate to Atlantic fisheries. Apologies for not having that off the top of my head, but if you do want to email citizenscience@noaa.gov, we can try to get you a more specific answer.
As was said before previously, audience, if you think of any other questions that you have about citizen science, definitely reach out to them. And Rebecca, do you have any last comments?
I do. We have our last webinar series of the year, which is coming up in just a few short weeks on December 4th. So we are not impacting anybody's busy holiday season. Ideally, minimal impacts. But we're very excited because we're partnering with SciStarter, which is an organization that we've seen brought up several times in the chat tonight. Tara Cox and Emma Giles will be joining us, and they'll be presenting a series called Libraries as Community Hubs for Citizen Science, how SciStarter is supporting the movement. If you've been on their website, you know they have an extremely valuable toolkit for libraries to help to create themselves and partner with these different citizen and community-based science programs in order to be a hub for organizing those efforts, as well as a meeting place. And during their talk, they'll be discussing how libraries across the country are becoming community hubs for citizen science, introducing their communities to participatory research through training, programs, and citizen science kits to make participation more accessible. SciStarter, in partnership with Arizona State University and the National Girls Collaborative Project, are supporting thousands of libraries through the Citizen and Community Science Library Network. So join us as we learn more about that program and the tools they have available. I'm particularly very excited for that one, and it will be on December 4th.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you both for presenting today. And audience, thank you for joining us. We hope to see you all at our next seminar. Have a great day.